Welcome back to the War Room. We're here for another army review, and today we're going to be looking at the Flesh Eater Courts. Very cool army to me. I think lore-wise, these guys are very unique because of all the delusions and things, and they think that they're these noble knights and they're fighting for this good cause, but really they're all these super gross, undead kind of dudes, and it's all just driven by all these delusions that they have that they're actually the good guys. Very interesting army, very cool models, and from what I've seen, pretty effective on the tabletop as well. Let's dive right into this. Hopping into battle traits. First one is Noble Deeds. Each friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero starts the battle with 0 Noble Deed points and can have a maximum of 6 Noble Deed points at once. Each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero uses a fight ability, after that ability has been resolved, give that hero a number of Noble Deed points equal to the number of damage points inflicted by that ability. Do not count attacks made with companion weapons. Each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts priest hero uses a prayer ability and the prayer is answered, after that ability has been resolved, give that hero 1 Noble Deed point. Each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts wizard hero uses a spell ability and the spell is successfully cast, after that ability has been resolved, give that hero 1 Noble Deed point. The Noble Deed points are really important. We're going to get to them here in a second, but it's really easy for your heroes to just kind of stack these up, and then you get to do a lot of really cool stuff with these. We're going to get to kind of what they do here in a second, but this is a huge part of this army is the Noble Deeds. Address loyal subjects. Once per turn per army in your hero phase, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero to use this ability. Roll the dice for each other friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit wholly within 12 inches of that hero. For each 5+, give 1 Noble Deeds point to that hero. Once again, building up those Noble Deed points. And then Royal Blood, once per turn per army in your hero phase. Pick any number of friendly abhorrents to be the targets. Heal D3 for each target. So that's just a good way. If you're running a bunch of abhorrent units, then they can just always be healing, which is nice. Muster Guard. Pick a friendly courtier hero that has 1 or more Noble Deeds points to use this ability. Then pick a friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of it to be the target. Spend any of that hero's Noble Deed points. If the target is a Serf's unit, for each Noble Deeds point spent, return 1 slain model to it. If the target is a Knight's unit, for every 2 Noble Deed points spent, return 1 slain model to it. So the Serfs are essentially like your scrub units, your chaff kind of thing, and then Knights for the most part are your kind of more heavy hitters, more elite units. And so this is a way to kind of bring back models here and there, which is why like you always want to be getting these Noble Deed points up, because then you can just bring back models and bring back units. Summon loyal subjects. This is also in your movement phase. Pick a friendly abhorrent hero that has 6 Noble Deed points to use this ability. Then pick a friendly Serfs or Knights unit that has been destroyed to be the target. Spend all of that hero's Noble Deed points. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, wholly within 6 inches of a battlefield edge and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So this is a huge one with why your Noble Deed points are important. This is bringing back half strength units that have died already. And so the recursion with the Flesh Eater Courts is a huge part of their army, just bringing guys back. And since this one, Summon Loyal Subjects, it's not like a once per battle thing. You can do this. You have to use all 6 Noble Deed points. So you could, as I understand it, you could, if you had multiple heroes that had 6 Noble Deed points, you could do this more than once because it's not a once per thing. But it just would have to be different heroes that have maxed out Noble Deed points. And it's pretty easy to get maxed out Noble Deed points with some of these heroes, like Usharan. Like, he can do 6 wounds, 6 damage points, super easy. Feeding Frenzy. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons, including companion weapons, used by friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any heroes that have 6 Noble Deed points. So once again, those Noble Deed points, adding 1 to the attack's characteristics, including companions, is super awesome. It's very strong. And we'll get to Usharan has some stuff to do with this, but Usharan is going to have 6 Noble Deed points a lot of the time, and so you're going to be getting +1 attacks on a lot of units. So it's a very good, it all fits very well together. Moving on to the battle formations, you've got the Cannibal Court, a hunger for glory. Once per turn per army at the end of any turn, give 1 Noble Deeds point to each friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero wholly outside friendly territory. Just an easy way to build up more Noble Deed points. Ghoul Patrol. This is gore-splattered hunters. When players are alternating picking units to use a fight ability, when it is your turn to pick a unit, you can pick 2 Crypt Ghouls units instead of 1. Neither unit can have strike last. Resolve the second fight ability immediately after the first. This is kind of like a cool little, like the follow me mechanic, or where you get a lot of heroes that will activate a unit right after them. This just is, you can go with 2 ghoul units, one right after the other, which is pretty nice, especially if you have 2 humongous ghoul units that are in combat. Lords of the Manor, raise the banners. Each time an ability returns at least 1 slain model to a friendly unit that is not in combat after that ability has been resolved. If that unit is a Serf's unit, you can return 1 additional slain model to it. If it is a Knight's unit, roll a dice on a 4+, you can return 1 additional slain model to it. Once again, some more recursion things. If you're running a bunch of chaff or your serfs, right, you can just bring back double the amount of guys. And then if it's Knights, you have to roll a 4+, but then you can bring back 1 extra guy. That's just another recursion mechanic with these guys. Once per turn per army in your combat phase, meet for the beast. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Courts monster to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target has strike first for the rest of the turn. So if you wanted to really monster mash here, this I think is a good one to do. And it is once per turn. It's not once per battle, so you can use this a lot. I'm not really sure which one of these I'd want to do. The Cannibal Court is very good. Just to get your heroes, because the biggest part of this army is that your heroes are constantly full on Noble Deed points, so that you're getting those the feeding frenzy, and you're bringing units back, and you're bringing models back. I think Cannibal Court is a very good choice here. Moving on to heroic traits, you've got the Cruel Taskmaster. Each time a friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. So there's a lot of armies that have something similar to this, or abilities that are like this, where you're rolling 3 extra dice on your rallies, which is pretty awesome, because there's a lot of things, that have 4 wounds or 5 wounds, and you can't bring them back on a typical rally. But with 9 dice, you got a better chance at that. Savage Beyond Reason. While this unit has fewer than 6 Noble Deed points, its melee weapons have crit 2 hits. While it has 6 Noble Deed points, its melee weapons have crit mortals. That's pretty dang awesome, because crit 2 hits is really good. And then if you have 6 Noble Deed points, you have crit mortals, in addition to the feeding frenzy stuff. This is one that I think I would use for sure. Stronger in Madness. Add 2 to this unit's health characteristic. In addition, while this unit has 6 Noble Deed points, it has a 5+ ward. Once again, another really good ability. I don't know. Those are the 2 that I would probably pick between. 2 extra health is awesome, and then if you get up to 6 Noble Deed points, the 5+ ward is really good. Those are I would probably pick Savage Beyond Reason or Stronger in Madness. Moving on to the Artifacts of Power. The Charnel Investments. If this unit is not a priest, it has Priest 1. If this unit is already a priest, add 1 to chanting rolls for this unit. If this unit is a wizard, it cannot use spell abilities and prayer abilities in the same phase. So you get to be a priest, which is pretty awesome. I played Idoneth Deepkin. We don't have any priests. It makes me pretty sad, because priests are really good, I think. They really buff your army out. The Grim Garland. Subtract 2 from the control scores of enemy units while they are within 12 inches of this unit. A way to manipulate control scores. I'm not a huge fan of focusing on control scores. I think some of these other things are better. And then Heart of the Gargant. This is once per battle in any combat phase. If this unit is in combat, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of its melee weapons for the rest of the turn. This ability also affects companion weapons. So this is a once per battle, but you get to add 1 attacks to its melee weapons, and that includes companion. So if you got someone on a zombie dragon or terrorgeist, this is a way to go. Moving on to the spell lore, we've got Deranged Transformation. It goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Courts wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Flesh Eater Courts infantry or cavalry unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6 until the start of your next turn. Add 2 inches to the target's move characteristic. Add 1 to wound rolls for the target's combat attacks. This seems really good. 2 to movement, like especially if you're going after some cavalry. You throw 2 more inches of movement and +1 to wound is really good. Like if it were one or the other, this would still be a really good spell. The fact that this is both and it goes off on a 6 and it's your unlimited spell, like you can just cast this onto everyone essentially. So very good. I really like their spell lore. I think their spell lore is very, very strong. The Miasma of Madness, this goes off on a 5. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll 7 dice and apply the corresponding effect. Ravaged Mind. If 2 or more of the dice have the same value, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. Gory Visions. If 3 or more of the dice have the same value, in addition to the effect of Ravaged Mind, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's attacks until the start of your next turn. And then Drooling Stupor. If 4 or more of the dice have the same value, in addition to the effects of Ravaged Mind and Gory Visions, subtract 1 from wound rolls for the target's attacks until the start of your next turn. The fact that this goes off on a 5 seems crazy. If you get 4 of the same roll, you do 1 mortal damage, they're -1 to hit, and then they're -1 to wound, and that's to the start of your next turn. And it goes off on a 5. Very good spell. Very, very strong. Charnel Feast. This goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Inflict d3 mortal damage on the target. Then you can pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz infantry unit within 6 inches of the target. For each damage point allocated to the target by this ability, you can return 1 slain model to that friendly unit. This is some chip damage with that d3 mortals, and then you get to bring models back for however much damage you did. Once again, I think their spell lore is awesome. The prayer lore, the first one is Blessed Feast. This goes off on a 5. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a chanting roll of d6. Until the start of your next turn, each time a model in the target unit is slain, heal a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit in combat with the target. It's just 1. If the chanting roll was a 10+, heal d3. So, and that's your unlimited prayer, so you can throw this out onto any number of units that you want. You're probably going to have to be banking points, but very, very good little healing mechanic there. The Summer King's Favor, this also goes off on a 5. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Flesh Eater Quartz hero, wholly within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a chanting roll of d6. Until the start of your next turn, each time an enemy model is slain by a combat attack made by the target, give the target 1 additional noble deed point after the fight ability has been resolved. If the chanting roll was 10+, until the start of your next turn, each time an enemy model is slain by a combat attack made by the target, give all friendly Flesh Eater Quartz heroes wholly within 18 inches of the target 1 additional noble deed point after the fight ability has been resolved instead of only the target. So, once again, another way to just get more noble deed points. I don't think this is one that you ever need to throw on Usharan because he's going to get to 6 if he's in combat at all. But if you throw this onto someone else, then they're just getting additional points, and then you're bringing units back, you're healing guys, and it just kind of snowballs a little bit, which is super cool. Charnel Conviction. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit wholly within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a chanting roll of d6. Until the start of your next turn, the target has a ward of 5+. If the chanting roll was 10+, pick another friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit wholly within 18 inches of the target. That unit also has a ward of 5+ until the start of your next turn. So 5-up ward, awesome. The prayer lore is just cool. Like I said, I don't have a prayer lore with my Idneth Deepkin, so I get a little jealous when I see prayer lores, especially ones that are good. The manifestation lore, we got the Chalice of Usharan, goes off on a 6. 6-up armor save, no movement, 6 health, banishes on a 7+. It's got the Fill the Chalice ability. Each time a model, friendly or enemy, is slain within 12 inches of this manifestation, give this manifestation a blood point to a maximum of 6. And then Overflowing Gore. At the end of any turn, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit wholly within 18 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Add the number of blood points this manifestation has to the target's control score for the rest of the turn. Then reset this manifestation's blood points to 0. So this is a good way to manipulate control scores again. You just have to be close enough to have this work. It is within 12 inches, and then It's 12 inches to get the blood points and then 18 inches to give it to someone. So a cool little manifestation. The Cadaverous Barricade goes off on a 5, 4 up armor save, no move, 10 health, banishes on a 7+. It's got the Grasping Hands ability. Enemy units cannot use run or retreat abilities while they are within this manifestation's combat range. In addition, if an enemy unit is picked to use a move ability while it is within this manifestation's combat range, have the unit's move characteristic rounding up for the rest of the turn. So this is kind of a screen almost, where you can kind of block off things and make it kind of difficult for your opponent to move around and get things where they need to be. And the Corpse Mare Stampede goes off on a 7. 5 up armor save, 12-inch movement, 10 health, and banishes on a 7+. The melee weapons are the Corpse Mare Trample, 10 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, 1 damage. And then they have the Trampled Underfoot ability. This is in the movement phase. This manifestation can move a distance up to its move characteristic. This manifestation can pass through models and the combat ranges of enemy units, but it cannot end that move in combat. Then pick up to 3 enemy units that this manifestation passed across during that move to be the targets. Roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. And then it says this manifestation can use this ability even if it is in combat. So this is just another way to kind of chip damage into units. Like if you have a little foot hero or something, this is a good way to chip away at them and possibly kill them if they're low on health. But we'll hop into the War Scrolls now. The first War Scroll we've got here is Nagash. We've covered him in other videos. We'll just cover him again here real quick. 3 up armor save, 10-inch movement, 18 health, 10 control. His melee weapons, he's got Alakanash. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage d6. And then Zephet Nebtar, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. He's battle damaged when he has 10 or more damage points, and you subtract 3 from his power level because he's a wizard 9, so he can cast 9 spells. He also has a 5-up ward, so he's not super easy to take down. The Staff of Power, add 2 to casting rolls for this unit while it does not miscast any spells this turn. If this unit miscasts a spell, ignore the restriction that would stop this unit from casting any more spells this turn. So he's +2 to cast all the time. Unless he miscasts, then you lose that +2, but you can continue casting spells. So you're going to be able to cast whatever you want, whenever you want with Nagash. Hand of Dust, everybody's favorite. Once per turn per army at the end of any turn, pick a visible enemy, hero, or monster in combat with this unit to be the target. Hide a dice in one of your hands or under one of 2 appropriate containers. Your opponent must pick one of your hands or containers. If they pick the one hiding the dice, this ability has no effect. If they pick the empty one, the target is automatically destroyed. So it's one of the memeier things in Warhammer. In any facet of any of the Warhammer games. I think it's hilarious, but also I've never been hand of dusted before. I've played against Nagash a few times, but I make sure I keep my heroes and my monsters away from him, or if I'm going all in, if I can kill him in one go, then I'll send everything in. But getting hand of dusted is no fun, and everybody hates it. Supreme Lord of the Undead. This is once per battle in your hero phase. Pick a friendly non-hero, non-unique death unit that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit identical to the target, wholly within 12 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. A lot of these recursion mechanics are when you're bringing back a unit that's been destroyed. A lot of it's at half strength. He is at full strength with this. It is once per battle, though, so you got to kind of pick and choose what you want to bring back, but it's a very strong mechanic. Invocation of Nagash, this is his War Scroll spell, goes off on a 7. This unit can cast this spell more than once per phase. Pick a visible unit wholly within 18 inches of this unit that has not been picked to be the target of this spell this turn to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. If the target is an enemy unit, inflict d3 mortal damage on it. If the target is a friendly death unit, pick one of the following effects. Return a number of slain models to the target unit with a combined health characteristic of up to 3. The target has a ward of 5+ until the start of your next turn. So you can chip damage with this. You can cast this 9 times into a whole bunch of different units and just bam, 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 bam. Or you can cast it onto your own guys to bring models back or to give them a 5-up ward. So Nagash is really awesome. He's a ton of points. I think he's in the 800s somewhere, like the high 800s. He might have just gone down, actually. It might be like 840. So he's a ton of points, but you're getting a lot out of him, and he's not going to just die immediately with that 3-up save and the 5-up ward save. Like, he's an 18 health. He's not just going to crumble to dust. Moving on to Usharan. Usharan is super cool. He's the Mortarch of Delusion, and he is a absolute monster on the tabletop. So 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save. He's a wizard 2, and then he's got 10-inch movement, 16 health, and 5 control. His melee weapons, he's got the Scepter of the Carrion King, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3 plus 3. I love D3 plus 3. We just saw Nagash has that D6 damage. You're like, oh, 6 damage is possible out of that. You're never going to roll a 6. But here, with the D3 plus 3, you got a very good chance of getting 6 damage, and you're at least getting 4 damage off of each attack that gets through. And then he has the Monstrous Talons, 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. His battle damage, when he has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Monstrous Talons goes down to 6 instead of 8. The Carrion King. While this unit has 6 Noble Deed points, the effect of the Feeding Frenzy ability applies to friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they are wholly within 24 inches of this unit instead of 12 inches. This is why Usharan is awesome. If he gets into combat, you're going to get 6 wounds through. Like, it's inevitable. Even if you don't do a very good job, you're going to get 6 wounds through. And then that means your Feeding Frenzy is 24 inches instead of 12. 24 inches on the tabletop is humongous. It's ginormous. And so, yes, it is wholly within 24 inches, but that +1 attacks going on to all Flesh Eater Courts units within 24 inches of him is so good. So good. His Warscroll spell is Glimpse of Delusion. This goes off on a 7. Pick a visible enemy model within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Pick another enemy unit within the target's combat range to be the victim. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Pick one of the target's melee weapons. Immediately resolve combat attacks made with that weapon against the victim. This is awesome. This is kind of another meme hammer right here. Where, like, this is a really good way, I think, to blow up castles, because you've got a big hammer unit that's sitting right behind, a screen, and you say, well, I don't want that screen to be there. That unit's going to attack with their strongest attack into that screen and just obliterate them. It's awesome. I love it. Shroud Cage Fragment. Once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick up to 3 enemy units in combat with this unit to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target. If the roll exceeds the target's control characteristic, the target has strike last for the rest of the turn. If he's just right up in everybody's grill, you can pick 3 enemy units, and then if you can make them strike last. Usharan is nasty. He is so good. And then you got the Epicenter of Delusion. Pick one of the following effects to apply until the start of your next turn. The Royal Hunt. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that target a monster. Crusading Army. Add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units. Defenders of the Realm. Add 1 to save rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they are contesting an objective you control. The Grand Tournament. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by other friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes if they are charged in the same turn. This is awesome because you just get to pick. You don't have to roll anything, and you just pick one of these. So 1 to run and charge is awesome. Add 1 to wound on monsters is really good. I feel like there's a lot of monster mash going on in Warhammer 4th edition right now. Adding 1 to wound on monsters, super cool. Add 1 to save if you're contesting an objective that you control. So, like, people won't be able to take objectives from you that easily. And then if your heroes get charged, they're +1 to hit. So really cool stuff coming out of this Warscroll. Usharan, I don't know if I've seen lists that don't run him with Flesh Eater Courts. Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch movement, 16 health, 5 control, and he is a wizard 1. Ranged weapons, he's got the Death Shriek, 10-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6, with the shoot in combat and companion ability. And then melee weapons, you've got Gory Talons and Fangs, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. The Terrorgeist's Fanged Maw, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6, with the companion keyword. And then the Terrorgeist Skeletal Talons, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with the companion keyword as well. This unit is battle damaged when it has 10 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Terrorgeist Skeletal Talons goes down to 4. The Gaping Maw. Each time an attack made with this unit's Terrorgeist's Fanged Maw scores a critical hit, that attack inflicts 6 mortal damage on the target unit, and the attack sequence ends. As I understand it, if you roll a whole bunch of 6s, it's 6 mortal damage for each one, which is really good. Like it's absurd that that's what happens. And then you've got the Ferocious Hunger ability. Once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Attacks made with this unit's Terrorgeist's Fanged Maw that target an enemy unit score critical hits on unmodified hit rolls of 5+ for the rest of the turn. So in addition to doing 6 mortal wounds, you're criting on 5s if you roll a 3+, which is awesome. It's only 3 attacks, but that's a possible 18 mortal wounds immediately. The Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 12-inch movement, 16 health, 5 control. The ranged weapons, you've got the Pestilential Breath, 10-inch range, d6 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 3, with the shoot in combat and companion keywords. And then you've got, for melee weapons, the Gory Talons and Fangs, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then the Draconic Maw, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3 with the companion keyword. And then the Draconic Claws, 7 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with the companion keyword. Battle damaged, when this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Draconic Claws goes down to 5. Draconic Terror, once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll exceeds the target's control characteristic, the target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. So being able to turn off commands is awesome. And this is one where it's not like on a 3+, it's on the target's control score. And then Monstrous Hunger. While they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit, friendly non-hero Flesh Eater Quartz monsters can use charge abilities even if they used a run ability in the same turn. So if you wanted to really monster mash here, they can get run and charge if they're all within 12 inches of each other, which is pretty cool, which is pretty fun. It does have to be non-hero, so a little tricky there. Moving on to Grand Justice Gourmain. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch move, 5 health, 2 control. He's got the Gore Streaked Gavel. 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage D3. Pretty standard infantry hero. Once per turn per army in your hero phase, you can use Delusion of Justice Served. Pick a visible enemy unit to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3+, this unit gains 1 Noble Deeds point. Then pick one of the following effects to apply to the target until the start of your next turn. Petty Transgression, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks that target that unit. Dishonorable Conduct in battle. Friendly non-monster Flesh Eater Quartz units can use charge abilities even if they used a run ability in the same turn, but if they do so, they must end the charge move within half an inch of the target. Grievous Insult to the Court. While the target is in combat with the friendly Abhorrent, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that target that unit. And Regicide. If the target destroyed a friendly Abhorrent this battle, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that target that unit. So he's just going to kind of buff out your whole army, getting some run and charge stuff in there, or +1 to hit against someone, or +1 damage if they killed an Abhorrent unit. Very, very cool kind of. It's very situational. So I've seen him used in a handful of armies, but a lot of it is based on Abhorrent kind of building of your army there. Moving on to the Abhorrent Gore Warden. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 12-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. He's got the Gory Talons and Fangs, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then he's got the Royal Hunting Party, so this is in your movement phase. If this unit is not in combat, you can pick up to 2 friendly Crypt Flayers or Morbeg Knights units that are not in combat and are wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Remove this unit and the targets, if any, from the battlefield. Set up this unit again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Then set up each target wholly within 12 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. It's kind of a deep strike mechanic. It's cool because you can do this in your movement phase. He just has to be next to wholly within 12 inches of other units to take them with him. Pretty cool. You can only get to 9 inches there, so you got to kind of plan that out. The Warscroll Herald, 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Bone Scythe, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. The King's Entreaty, once per turn per army in any charge phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Pick one of the following effects. Attack the Apostate. Friendly Flesh Eater Courts units in combat with the target have strike first for the rest of the turn. Welcome the Disciple. The target has the infected keyword for the rest of the battle. Each time your opponent declares a command, spell ability, or prayer ability for an infected unit, roll a dice as a reaction on a 5+. If they declared a command, that command has no effect. The command still counts as having been used, and the command points spent to use the command are still lost. If they declared a spell or prayer ability, that spell or prayer fails. So he's kind of there to make sure your wizards can't really do anything. The command thing is really cool. You do have to roll this on a 5+ to get this to happen. And on top of that, you had to roll a 3+ to choose one of these two. But I think he's a cool little piece that you can kind of do some cool stuff with. Don't shoot the messenger. While this unit is not in combat and is wholly within the combat ranges of 3 or more Flesh Eater Courts infantry models, it is not visible to enemy units. So you just can't shoot him because he's not visible. He does have to be right around everybody, so it's a little tricky to get him tucked in there. Moving on to the Morbeg Knights. 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch movement, 4 health, 1 control. They've got the Grizzly Lance, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge +1 damage. Night Shrieker's Claws and Teeth, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with a companion keyword. They have the Shrieking Charge, so any charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. And then Predator's Pounce. This unit can use charge abilities even if it used a retreat ability in the same turn. In addition, no mortal damage is inflicted on this unit by retreat abilities. So these guys are pretty mobile. The 12-inch move is awesome. And then they can retreat and charge, which is really cool, and they do impact mortals. So you always want to be charging these guys. If you get stuck in combat, retreat out, charge back in, do mortals, get +1 damage on the charge. Crypt Guard, 6 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Cursed Weapon, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. They have the Armory of Madness ability, so this is a reaction when you declared a fight ability for this unit. If any damage points inflicted by attacks made as part of that fight ability are allocated to any enemy units, those enemy units cannot use commands until the start of your next turn. You can kind of turn off commands as long as you get 1 damage through. Royal Bodyguard, while any friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes are wholly within this unit's combat range, both this unit and those heroes have a ward of 5+. So this would be an interesting one, I think, if you gave them the Bodyguard special rule too, or the seasonal rule, where they're -1 attacks if they're in combat with these guys too. So then your heroes would have a 6-up ward or a 5-up ward and be -1 attacks if things are fighting into them. I think that's a pretty cool combo. These guys are really squishy with the 6-up armor save, so I don't think I would do it. But it's a way that you could do it if you had an extra honor guard to give. Maybe consider these guys if you bring them. The Vargulf Courtier, 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 10-inch movement, 8 health, 2 control. It's got the Immense Claws, 7 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then the Dagger-like Fangs, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3, with anti-infantry +1 rend. Bounding Strides, this unit can pass across terrain features as if it had fly, so he can just zoom across the board. And then Victory Feast at the end of any turn. If any models were slain by this unit this turn, heal this unit d6. This unit can immediately use the retreat ability as if it were your movement phase without any mortal damage being inflicted on it. So if you got to kill this guy in one go. If you don't, he's just going to be super annoying because he can just retreat, heal, retreat, heal, retreat, heal, and you'll just be chasing him for a long time. The Abhorrent Cardinal, 6 up armor save, 6-inch movement. He's got a 6 up ward as well. 5 health, 2 control. The Cursed Crozier, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage D3. And then he's got the Rousing Oration ability. Pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz hero wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a D3 on a 2+. Give the target a number of Noble Deeds points equal to the roll. So this is just another way to just build up Noble Deeds points. This guy's also a priest as well, so he's going to be doing those prayers for you. The Noble Deeds points thing is awesome because you're healing guys, you're giving out Feeding Frenzy, or you're bringing units back. The Royal Decapitator. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. He's got the Headsman's Axe, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. The Executioner's Entourage ability. This is a reaction when you declare a fight ability for this unit. Pick a friendly Serfs unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. That's the follow me. He goes, picks a Serfs unit, they go right after him. And then off with their head. This is at the end of any turn. Pick an enemy infantry hero that had any damage points allocated to it by this unit's attacks to be the target. Roll a dice on a 5+. The target is automatically destroyed. So he just chops off the head. That's a pretty useful ability if you're fighting Littlefoot heroes. The Abhorrent Archregent. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save. He's a wizard 2, 6-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. He's got the Gory Talons and Fangs, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then he's got a Warscroll spell. It's the Carrion Call. Goes off on a 6. Make a casting roll of 2d6. The first friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit to be set up in the following movement phase can immediately move d6 inches. That unit cannot move into combat during any part of that move. That is kind of what you're doing as you're bringing units back. If you've got this guy, he can move them in closer, and then you can deep strike a little closer to people. It is a d6, so you're going to roll a lot of 1s and a lot of 2s. But if you have the Gore Warden, too, his ability kind of works out with that as well, where he can pick up some guys and then deep strike them in. Countless Servants. This is in your hero phase. Pick a friendly Serfs or Knights unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. If the target is a Serfs unit, you can return up to 3 slain models to that unit. If the target is a Knights unit, you can return 1 slain model to that unit. So, for reference here, like your Crypt Guard are Serfs, your Morbeg Knights, surprise, surprise, are Knights. Okay, we got the Abhorrent Ghoul King. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 6-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. Gory Talons and Fangs, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. He's got the Code of Honor. This is in any combat phase. Pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons, but all of this unit's attacks must target that hero. So you're just essentially +1 damage on heroes. It just all has to go into the same guy. And then he has Unnatural Speed. This is in your charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, it has strikes first for the rest of the turn. So you can kind of use him as kind of like your heat-seeking missile to go and track down enemy heroes and do a bunch of damage into them. The Crypt Infernal Courtier. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. It's got a ranged weapon. It's the Piercing Death Screech, 10-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage D3 with the shoot and combat ability. And then the melee weapons, you've got the Skewering Claws, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. The Mind-Shattering Cacophony. If any models were slain by this unit's Piercing Death Screech this turn, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of ranged weapons used by friendly Crypt Flayers units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So he's just going to buff Crypt Flayers with that. Moving on to the Crypt Haunter Courtier. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 7-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. The Massive Bone Club and Rancid Talons. 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then he has Noble Blood. So in your hero phase, you can heal him D3. So he'll just keep on healing as long as he's alive. And then he's got the Knightly Exemplar. This is a reaction for when you declare a fight ability for this unit. Pick a friendly Crypt Horrors unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability by this unit has been resolved. If it is picked to do so, add 1 to hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. This is another follow me mechanic, but it's with the Crypt Horrors specifically. Moving on to the Crypt Flayers. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch movement, 4 health, 1 control. He's got the Death Scream for a ranged weapon. It's 10-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, damage 1 with the shoot and combat ability. And then the Piercing Talons for melee, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, Rend 1, damage 1. And then they have the Escort Courtier. Once per turn per army in your movement phase, if this unit is not in combat, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz infantry hero that does not have fly and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. Remove the target from the battlefield, then this unit can move a distance up to its move characteristic. It cannot end that move in combat, then set up the target within this unit's combat range more than 3 inches from all enemy units. So you can kind of pick up an infantry hero and just go drop him off somewhere. Moving on to the Crypt Horrors. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 7-inch move, 4 health, 1 control. They got the Club and Septic Talons, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 2 with the crit auto wound ability. They have the Royal Approval ability, add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while it is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly courtiers or abhorrents. That's how they get their rend. They have Noble Blood, so in your hero phase they heal D3. Crypt Ghouls, 6-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 6-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Sharpened Teeth and Filthy Claws, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound. They also have Royal Approval, so you add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while it is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly courtiers or abhorrents. Getting on to the monsters now. You've got the Royal Zombie Dragon, 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch move, 14 health, 5 control. The Pestilential Breath, 10-inch range, D6 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s, 1 rend, damage 3 with the shoot and combat and companion keywords. And then the Draconic Maw, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3 with the companion keyword. And the Draconic Claws, 7 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with the companion keyword as well. Its battle damage when it has 10 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Draconic Claws goes down to 5. Vantage point, this is in the deployment phase. Pick this unit if it has not been deployed. Set up this unit in reserve high above the battlefield. It has now been deployed, so you can kind of deep strike him in there. Loathsome Descent. Pick this unit if it is high above the battlefield. Set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So you can kind of just throw him down somewhere and be a threat wherever he is. And then he's got Soaring Terror. Once per turn per army in any combat phase. If this unit charged this turn, roll a dice on a 3+. This unit can move 2d6. It can pass through the combat ranges of enemy units, but must end that move in combat. Then pick an enemy unit that it passed across during that move. Inflict d3 mortal damage on that enemy unit. It's essentially a 2d6 pile-in, and you do d3 mortal damage. It's on a 3+, but very cool mechanic. The Royal Terrorgeist. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch movement, 14 health, control 5. It's got the Death Shriek, 10-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, and then damage d6 with the shoot and combat and companion keywords. Melee weapons, you got the Fanged Maw, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage d6 with the companion keyword. And then the Skeletal Talons, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with the companion keyword as well. Battle damaged, when this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Skeletal Talons goes down to 4. Gaping Maw, each time an attack made with this unit's Fanged Maw scores a critical hit, that attack inflicts 6 mortal damage on the target unit and the attack sequence ends. We kind of already talked about this one. And then Death Shriek, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy infantry unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in the target unit. For each 6, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. If 3 or more damage points are allocated to the target by this ability, subtract 1 from hit rolls for their target's attacks for the rest of the turn. So if I was picking between these, I think I would go with the Terrorgeist just for this Scream attack, because being able to just kind of mow down infantry is awesome. And then we got the Royal Beast Flayers, 6-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 6-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. The Beast Flayer weapons, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with anti-beast plus 1 rend and anti-monster plus 1 rend. These are your monster killers, essentially. But they don't have any base rend, so they're just going to be rend 1 on things. Hunter's Instincts. Enemy monsters cannot use rampage abilities while they are in combat with this unit. In addition, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of melee weapons used by enemy monsters and beast units while they are in combat with this unit. So they really just kind of negate what monsters and beasts do. And then the Royal Flame Master. In any combat phase, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Add 1 to the amount of mortal damage inflicted, if any, if the target is a monster or beast unit. Just kind of a little auxiliary piece that can kind of muck things up for your opponent's monsters. And then we've got the Faction Terrain, which is the Charnel Throne. 4-up armor save, no movement, 10 health, no control. It's cover and impassable. So it's got the Steward of the Realm ability. While this terrain feature has a steward, the steward cannot use move abilities. Instead of measuring range or visibility to the steward, measure to this terrain feature instead. All attacks that would target the steward target this terrain feature instead. If this terrain feature is destroyed before removing it from the battlefield, inflict d3 mortal damage on the steward, then set up the steward on the battlefield within 3 inches of this terrain feature and not in combat. That unit is no longer the steward. If it is not possible to set up the steward, it is slain. If he just hops up into the throne. If the throne is destroyed, he falls out and gets hurt. So you got the Reigning Champion. This is in your hero phase. If this terrain feature does not have a steward, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz infantry hero within 3 inches of it and not in combat to be the target. Place the target on this terrain feature. The target is now the steward. You have to be within 3 inches. Hops up in there. Has to be an infantry hero. Duty Calls. This is in your movement phase. If this terrain feature has a steward and that was not placed on it this turn, set up the steward on the battlefield wholly within 6 inches of this terrain feature and not in combat. That unit is no longer the steward. So that's just if he wants to hop out. And then Ruler of All They Survey. This is in your hero phase. Give D3 noble deed points to this terrain feature's steward. So that's really the only, this looks like a lot with this. The only ability that it really does is just giving D3 noble deed points to whoever's in there. I know a lot of people have a lot of beef with Faction Terrain because it's like a free do not waver because it can't attack back. I don't know how I feel about him. I like the idea that everybody is going to have one and that they can do things for your army. They just don't come into play very often. But that is the army review for the Flesh Eater Courts. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you play this army, what kind of lists, what kind of armies, units you're running. We'd love to hear about it. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us kind of see what you guys want to see more of. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. It's not an army that I've played against a whole lot, but I really love the lore and like the models are super cool and just everything is very well done. Everything fits very well and the synergy with the whole army works really well. But that's all I've got for you this time. We'll see you next time.